South Korean Prime Minister offers to resign. Hawaii-born sumo champion Akebono Taro dies of heart failure. Vietnamese billionaire accused in multi-billion-dollar bank fraud. Arizona pushes abortion to center stage before U.S. election. Myanmar troops retreat as rebels takes control. Comic featuring Superman's first appearance sells for $6 million.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It's Friday, April 12th, and here are your top stories. South Korea's prime minister and senior presidential officials offered to resign en masse Thursday after their ruling party suffered a crushing defeat in parliamentary elections in a huge blow to conservative President Yoon Suk-yeol. The results of Wednesday's elections mean the liberal opposition forces will prolong their control of parliament until after Yoon completes his single 5-year term in 2027. That will most likely set back Yoon's domestic agenda and weaken his grip on the ruling party as he faces the opposition's intensifying political offensive during his remaining 3 years in office, experts say.
Prime Minister Han Duck-soo and all senior presidential advisors to Yoon, except those in charge of security issues, submitted their resignations, according to Yoon's office. It did not immediately say whether Yoon accepted their resignations. Executive power in South Korea is heavily concentrated in the president, but the prime minister is the number 2 official and leads the country if the president becomes incapacitated. Yoon said he will humbly uphold the public sentiments reflected in the election outcome and focus on improving people's economic situation and on reforming state affairs. Yoon's presidential chief of staff, Lee Kwon-seop, said in a televised briefing. In a separate news conference, ruling People Power Party leader Han Dong-hoon said he would step down as well to take responsibility for the election defeat.
Hawaii-born Akebono Taro, one of the greats of sumo wrestling and a former grand champion, has died. He was 54. He was the first foreign-born wrestler to reach the level of Yokozuna, or grand champion, in Japan. It is with sadness that we announce Akebono Taro died of heart failure earlier this month while receiving care at a hospital in the Tokyo area. The family said in a statement, Akebono grew up on the rural side of the Kula Mountains from Honolulu and was born Chet George Hahayo Rewan. He moved to Tokyo in the late 1980s and won his first grand championship in 1993.
At the prime of his career, he was a real giant, reported at the time to weigh 500 pounds, 225 kilos, and stand 6 feet -8, or 2.03 meters. The United States ambassador to Japan wrote on social platform X, "I was deeply saddened to learn of the passing of Akebono, a giant in the world of sumo, a proud Hawaiian and a bridge between the United States and Japan." When Akebono became the first ever foreign-born grand champion, sumo's highest rank, in 1993, he opened the door for other foreign wrestlers to find success in the sport. Throughout his 35 years in Japan, Akebono strengthened the cultural ties between the United States and his adopted homeland by uniting us all through sport. Akebono was an 11-time Grand Tournament winner and he retired in 2001.
It is the most spectacular trial ever held in Vietnam, befitting one of the greatest bank frauds the world has ever seen. Behind the stately yellow portico of the colonial-era courthouse in Ho Chi Minh City, a 67-year-old property developer stands accused of looting one of Vietnam's largest banks over a period of 11 years. The numbers involved are dizzying. Truong My Land is charged with taking out $44 billion in loans from the Saigon Commercial Bank. Prosecutors say $27 billion may never be recovered. The habitually secretive communist authorities have been uncharacteristically forthright about this case, going into minute detail for the media.
They say they have summoned 2,700 people to testify. There are 10 state prosecutors and around 200 lawyers involved. The evidence is in 104 boxes weighing a total of 6 tons. 85 defendants are on trial with Truong My Lan, who denies the charges. She and 13 others face a possible death sentence. A conservative ideologue steeped in Marxist theory, Nguyen Phu Trong believes that popular anger over untamed corruption poses an existential threat to the Communist Party's monopoly on power. He began the campaign in earnest in 2016 after outmaneuvering the then pro-business prime minister to retain the top job in the party. The campaign has seen 2 presidents and 2 deputy prime ministers forced to resign, and hundreds of officials disciplined or jailed. Now one of the country's richest women could join their ranks.
The Arizona Supreme Court on Tuesday pushed the abortion issue to center stage in a state that could be pivotal in deciding who wins November's U.S. presidential election. It has prompted Democrats to go on the attack and set many Republicans scrambling to align themselves more closely with the public sentiment. The court paved the way for a near-total ban on abortion, a law passed in 1864 when Arizona was still a U.S. territory, to go into effect in the coming weeks if there is no further legal action. The law had been preempted for nearly a half-century as a result of the 1973 U.S. Supreme Court ruling in Roe v. Wade that guaranteed a woman's right to abortion.
2 years ago, however, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned that abortion precedent. This gave old bans like the one in Arizona, which became a state in 1912, new life. The Arizona court decision prompted quick condemnation from the Biden administration as well as from local Democrats and pro-choice activists. While anti-abortion groups heralded the decision, many Republicans have distanced themselves from the state court action, reflecting polls that suggest a majority of the public favor abortion rights and oppose strict bans on the procedure. The party had largely opposed abortion before Roe was overturned, but is now grappling with the fallout from that decision. On Monday, former President Donald Trump released a short video detailing his own shifting position, which included leaving the ultimate decision on legality to individual states.
About 200 Myanmar military personnel withdrew to a bridge to Thailand on Thursday after a days-long assault by the anti-junta resistance, which declared it had won control of the critical border town of Myawaddy, the latest in a string of rebel wings. Myanmar's military-run government is battling insurgencies on several fronts and has suffered a series of defeats in frontier areas since last October, when rebel groups launched a coordinated offensive near the Chinese border. The body is a shadow administration of ousted lawmakers and anti-junta groups.
The retreat of junta troops in Myawaddy, adjacent to the Thai town of Mae Sot, signals the potential loss of another key border trading outpost with direct highway access to parts of central Myanmar. On Thursday, about 200 fleeing Myanmar soldiers gathered at a border crossing into Thailand, said Sa Ta Ne, spokesperson for the KNU. News outlet Kit Teet said Thai authorities were in talks with the soldiers to decide whether to grant them refuge. The assault on Myawaddy began last week after the KNU said it had attacked a junta camp near the town, forcing some 500 security personnel to surrender, along with their families. The military has already lost control of areas along Myanmar's borders with Bangladesh, China and India, while suffering a significant loss of manpower that has pushed it to introduce a draft for the first time.
A 1938 copy of the comic that first introduced Superman to the world has sold for a record-setting $6 million, the auctioneer that handled the purchase said last week. According to Heritage Auctions, the rare copy of Action Comics #1 was sold to an anonymous buyer on Thursday. The $6 billion price tag makes the book the most expensive comic to ever sell at auction, the auction house added. The copy sold last week, which comes from the Kansas City pedigree, has a very fine plus CGC rating of 8.5, with only 2 other unrestored issues of grading higher, Heritage Auctions noted.
Heritage Auctions hails Action Comics #1 as the most important comic ever published, noting that the Superman who first appeared in the 1938 spring issue remains remarkably like the version still seen in comic strips and on the big screen today. In addition to the Man of Steel's first appearance, the book also introduced central love interest Lois Lane. A report from comic book grading service Certified Guarantee Company, cited by Heritage Auctions, estimates that there are only 100 surviving copies of Action Comics #1 today, out of 200,000 that were printed by National Allied Publications, the predecessor to DC Comics.
The answer for yesterday is B, fundamental. Our Constitution embodies all the fundamental principles of democracy. Did you answer correctly? Now let's delve into the news of Vietnamese billionaire accused in multi-billion-dollar bank fraud. Number 1, stately. 宏大的、壮观的、气宇不凡的、仪态高贵的。Instead of moving at his usual stately pace, he was almost running. Number 2, loot. 暴乱、火灾后的打劫、抢劫、劫掠。More than 20 shops were looted. Number 3, uncharacteristically. 一反常态的、非同寻常的。The answer from this normally optimistic lot is uncharacteristically pessimistic. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comment section. The correct answer will be announced tomorrow. And that's all for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune in to Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I'll see you next time.